Okay, welcome back. Our guest, Alistair Wilcox, who is a chartered accountant and public policy analyst, as well as Larry Suraj. He's an anti-corruption crusader and chairman of the Human and Environmental Development Agenda. Our guests are reaching us remotely this morning. Just before we continue, gentlemen, Ibrahim has called in. Good morning, Ibrahim. Ibrahim, can you hear us? Good morning. You can't listen off your television set. Ibrahim.
Okay.
Okay. Yes. Mute. Could you please mute your television set and then let's move on?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, but we can hear your television in the background. Could you mute it, please? Okay. Mute the volume.
I'll reduce it.
Okay. Please carry on. Carry on, Ibrahim.
Okay. Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for calling in.
Okay, sir. So this issue is I can upload EFCC for their achievement regarding recovery of this large estate profit. But what needs to be done is to protect. I think what is need to do, EFCC need to coordinate and prevent. What matters is it's not about how much have we achieved in recovering things. How much are we ready to prevent such things to be repeated? Laws need to be met in public offices. Investigations need to be met regarding approvals and all other these things. I cannot be just going out busy like recapturing things that have already been gone. You cannot recover 100% things that have gone. If you say now the people have looted like 100 billion, you cannot recover it 100%. All the remaining percentage that have gone is also a public property. It's a public.
All right.
I've heard you talking about whistleblowers. All these whistleblowers will not. It is people. We have to be ready to fight corruption. When we are not appreciating corrupt people, that's when we are ready to fight corruption.
I want to thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ibrahim, for calling in. Really appreciate your call. Ibrahim is taking it even to another angle. How does one prevent people launching on such a scale as this one, where we're talking about 753 duplex houses, allegedly belonging to one man? We don't know for sure. It's like all due diligence must be performed, so we know exactly who we're talking about and who to charge. Again, it's the law, and I suppose there's no escaping that. There are rules, there are legal rules. Otherwise, you know what will happen. Lawyers will come out, go to court, and before you know where you are, they're even, charging someone with libel. So the EFCC, I think, is going about this better late than never. The EFCC can't say that it didn't see that such a massive construction was going on. But here we are now, and they say they are doing all the due process. So the conversation has sort of shifted. And let me come back to you, Larry, to the point of how do we prevent this kind of a thing? Because apparently, and please, rule me wrong if indeed that is the case, Nigerians don't like to come forward and talk about anybody else who has made it. Alistair was alluding to the fact, if it's your side, if your uncle or your relative or your friend or your paddy, then you sort of go quiet. There's not this uniform, aversion to corruption. Would you accept that as indeed a premise, or do you think we're missing something? Nigerians apparently don't want to be involved. They don't want. They even might begin to think of it along the lines of it's their luck. Larry, are you still with us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes. Now I can hear you.
Sadly, that was the situation that have just been foisted on us by not even in our tradition usually. That was what was foisted on us by most especially our politicians, and the elevation those who are more or less with criminal tendencies and background within the system to promote, the culture of silence. But Nigerians are not usually, when you go down the memory lane, I mean, we're people who would criticize and condemn, bad behavior to the extent that even if you're suspected to either be a criminal or to have either been suspected ritualists around that time when you have those kind of situation, or people within the community suspects you to be living above your means, people will ostracize you. People would hardly even take free gifts from you.
Yeah.
This was the culture that we grew up with, as young as many of us are here. I mean, these were the culture. You can hardly take home pencils that does not belong to you, to your parents, without them not even, they won't force you to take it back to the school the next day. You would be forced to take it back to school that same day. Even if there's nobody there, you will go and give it to either the principal or anybody. Well, that is the culture. And that was why I also brought back the memory, went back down the memory lane to also remind us about, the whistleblower policy that actually was tested by the previous government between 2015 and then 2018 before it's collapsed. So there's that tendency that people will come forward.
Okay. Now, I beg your pardon, Larry. Sorry.
Just 1 second. But unfortunately, because the system, so there was a time where you will go and report crime to the police, and before you know what, the criminal is aware of the source of that information to the law enforcement agency. So how do you continue to expose people to that kind of threat and the rest of that? And I just also alluded to that. We actually trained investigative journalists. We connected them with some of the law enforcement agencies. They started assisting, but there's always that behemoth. The one that we always talk about with the Ministry of Justice.
Exactly. Let me pick up, Larry. Let me pick up the Justice Ministry aspect of what you said and bring it to Alester. Alester, you people, well, not you people, because there's no lawyer among us, but even non-lawyers, we use the quote-unquote trite saying that the courts is the last bus stop of the ordinary man and all of that. There are people who are beginning to, whose trust is beginning to wear very, very thin when it comes to the courts. They are feeling that, well, I'm sorry, you depend on the courts to give you justice in this country. One man is out there, maybe in a different context. Dele Farotimi is out there, and he's a lawyer. He's in the Temple of Justice. And he is saying, among other things, that you can't depend on the courts for justice in this society. An astounding statement to be coming from a lawyer. And he has his own context. But if you were to remove it from that context, give me your thought on that whole notion that the ordinary man, not having a choice, will think that, we'll go to court and we'll get justice. Do you feel that Nigeria lives on that particular frequency?
Well, sadly, Yori, each time I think about our legal systems, it gives me a lot of worry and concern that if it's happening like this now, when we will have a turn at the bend. Time it was when the justice sector of this country, that is the judges, are men of honor and integrity, men that stands out and make sure that they understand their role in society, that society depends on them to live. But, well, that cannot be said of today, because if you look at even how are judges appointed recently, these days, judges are appointed by those that know school, those that keep notes, those that are families and friends of either retiring judges, children, spouses of politically exposed persons. So when the system of appointment of judges is corrupted and personalized, what do you get? What we're having today? Poor quality judges. Judges that were either foisted. For instance, a father is retiring or a mother is retiring. He said, my daughter should just enter. She may not have the calling, but she goes in. What would happen? So, and we've also seen judgments that defy logic. Yes, in when you go to court, you have to adduce your cases. Then when you go to court and you have adduced all the cases and the judgment defies logic, or you have judgments that you can concoct overnight, even when the judgment are leaked and said this judgment has been written by so person, it will be delivered on so day.
Yes.
The judge will still go ahead, will not shame without being ashamed that he has been caught, will still go ahead and deliver that judgment. I was in court for 4 years at the National Industrial Court for 4 years, and my case was dismissed, was thrown out, even when I had, because I was challenging an establishment. That is me, Lester Wilcox. I was challenging an establishment. And you have judges that do not see the side of the common man, but tends to dance to the rich and the powerful.
Indeed.
That's what we have in Nigeria.
So this is the problem. Sorry, Lester. Let me interrupt you briefly. I beg your pardon. Adebayo has called in from Lekki. Good morning, Mr. Adebayo.
Hello.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. Go ahead,
sorry,
please.
I just want to make my contribution to my take on this is that the Nigerian Finance Intelligence Unit, who are supposed to be watching the movement of big funds around, they are not doing their best, because most of these funds are going from one bank to another. Before a fund is such amount of project, at least it's not going to be cash. It's going to come through banking system. And then you, at least by the regulation, if you take 10 million, 5 million, depending on whether it's a corporate or an individual, supposed to be involved. And if such amount of money is going unnoticed, that means NFIU not doing enough, or the bank directors are complicit to this. I'm in the real estate, and I know the way it's done. Even you see majority of the corrupt money come through real estate. I'm a subcontractor, and at times most of these things are hidden. You don't even know the owner of the property. You just put one name, you won't be able to trace it. You'll be talking to a third party. But I believe the banking system should know the money is not changing hand in cash; it's changing in hand through banking system. So the bank executive should be, should be monitored closely. And if there's any infringement, they should be penalized. But the issue in Nigeria is there's no penalty. There's no certainty of punishment. Once you have the money, you can buy your way out. Even if they are taken to the court, you may come out, on strike.
Okay.
So it's a big problem. And we all need to do that if we want the country to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Adebayo. Larry, again, because it's so much in the news, although we're not treating the particular subject right now, going back to Dele Famoroti. Farotimi. Farotimi, yeah. The two names actually are similar. They're not identical. But he has been saying, just, plucking one of his statements out of there, he has been saying that it's a systemic thing. It's not one individual. That our country, you can't depend on going through the procedures and thereby arriving through the truth at justice. He is making the stupendous allegation as a lawyer that, no, it doesn't matter. Whatever you put together by way of due process can at will be scuttled. Now, as I said, I don't want us to go so as not to mix subjects. We're not treating why Dele is in the news right now. But just that statement coming from a person who has the right to speak that way. He's saying that the court systems, the judicial system, the justice system, you can't depend on it. How can we fight corruption?
Yeah, it is actually very unfortunate, but I would want to, because it is important sometimes when we speak on this kind of thing, on nature of issue, that we don't just want to generalize, because you would know how sad and bad it would feel for some of those judges and justices who are still not part of the rot in that system, how sad it will feel for them, for us, or for someone to just say the Supreme Court. So, I mean, that says the whole entirety of the Supreme Court. And that, for me, is not the best way to approach the issue. That, for me, is not the best way to approach or address a system. It would be more important. And I think that is where it is always very crucial. Is either to have said, the people or the panelists who sat on the judgment, on the panel, so that it can be very easy. We shouldn't just use sentiment to paint, the whole system with the same brush. I mean, people would just say from outside and say, Nigerians are corrupt. And I would always stand up to confront people and say, you can say that, you can say some
indeed.
Of those that
you can't go as far.
And then
you can't go as far as saying Nigerians are corrupt. But we're sort of, narrowing it down to an indispensable aspect of fighting corruption, which is
important. It is important to say that some members of that arm of government are in that whole mess of corruption. So, like you said, you heard Alexa said, so he's talking about the industrial court, and he didn't say, the entire judiciary, because the industrial court can really mess things up. You go to the Court of Appeal, and you get a sound judgment. And as you go to the Supreme Court, you get, so it is not every time that is so, but like you said, that we didn't also go to what the merit or otherwise. But the most important thing is the freedom of expression and also the right of people to speak should not be criminalized. So even if we have defamation that people want to challenge, they should challenge it through the civil procedure, and the law enforcement agency should not be used to harass people from exercising their fundamental right to freedom of expression and speech. If there are criminal element of that,
we're ever so close. We haven't actually landed in there, but I was sort of veering into that particular case, and I don't want us to do that for now. You understand, because it just makes make the conversation too large. Alester, since we're fast running out of time, well, this administration has come with its own quote-unquote new broom attitude. It's not going to be doing things the way it was done before. How optimistic are you that it's going to yield fruit, this whole concept and idea? Bear in mind things that we've seen. The EFCC, for instance, there was a former governor in Kogi State. He walked in, he was wanted, but walked in there, walked out, and then later on walked back in. What are your hopes for justice reigning supreme and justice being meted fairly, equitably?
I am more interested in Nigerians getting justice from being battered and bruised over the years. I'm interested in Nigerians seeing the fact that those who oppress them either do not administer their patrimony, our collective patrimony, is brought to justice and really serve justice. But if you ask me how optimistic I am, I think I will be cautious optimist. I'm a cautious optimist at this point, because if you just mentioned a case of what happened with the Kogi governor.
Yes.
If people can trample on our institutions, if individuals can trample on our institutions, and then you walk in, you walk out. Today you hear a different story. He was asked to come through the back door. He was begged to come. They went to arrest. They were stopped. That is arrant nonsense. That is
well, unfortunately, this is what we are living with. It might be in the terms you describe it, but no Nigerian will say he's really surprised.
It's a collective slap. It's a slap on our collective integrity. Because we are talking about our institutions here. Yaya Bello was invited, was even issued a summon by the court, and he refused to go. How dare you? I don't have anything against Yaya Bello. He's one governor I love so much. If there's any governors I've met one-on-one, Yaya Bello is one of them. The very few governors I've met one-on-one, Yaya Bello is one of them.
All right.
When you want to trample our institutions, because you see, when people don't disrespect the police, I feel bad. When you disrespect the army, I feel bad. When you disrespect our courts, I feel bad. When you disrespect our law enforcement agencies like the EFCC, the DSS, I feel bad, because That is the only thing we have as an institutions that will guide us, that will make a good society. Okay. So no one man should. So I'm interested in seeing how EFCC will navigate themselves through all these models, because as far as I'm concerned, Yaya walking back. Sorry, I'm using that. Yaya walking back to EFCC slowly in is an arrangement. And I'm waiting for Yaya to be given a bill. I'm not expecting to be given it.
Okay.
I'm waiting. I'm just having a cautious optimism to effect that. Let's hope and pray and believe that we'll get something different going forward. And people will really, really feel that justice is served to their collective psyche that has always been depressed and depressed and depressed.
Indeed. Well, I want to thank you very much, Alester. Alester Wilcox joins us after a long time, as you saw at the top of the program, Chartered Accountant, Public Policy Analyst. Thank you very much, Alester, for making the time for us.
Thank you very much. May God bless Nigeria, and may God continue to protect our troops.
Indeed. Thank you. Okay. So, Larry Wilcox, we're out of here very, very shortly. But this whole problem, first of all, we're talking about the 753, houses that were discovered. We Nigerians are going to be waiting to see if this goes the way of other potential corruption cases that peter out. It's just a matter of there will be a lot of noise. Then after some time, you won't hear anything anymore. And it will not be because the matter has been positively resolved one way or the other. You just won't hear anything anymore. Let's wait on the EFCC to do their due diligence and maybe be able to say to us, Koro, that this is indeed the alleged owner. Stop the word alleged. This indeed is the owner of that mammoth facility. Are you optimistic that we're making progress in this fight against corruption and its systems?
Yeah, I think we're actually making progress. We're having, if you look at, we have 774 local government officials. You have 36 governors. Many of who are the worst forms of corrupt officials that you're talking about. You can ever imagine in the history of country, in this country. They are even sometimes more powerful than the president, or even having access to more resources than even the president. And you have how many of them as ministers? You have commissioners. You have all of that. It's a huge number of suspects to deal with. And unfortunately, the system is really still open to quite a whole lot of opportunities for corrupting the system, including with that of the civil servant. Like Alex has said, it is actually not really Yaya Bello actually disrespecting the law enforcement agencies. And I would beg to differ. It's actually the law enforcement agencies, the DSS and the police, and the leadership of the both of them stand indicted in the Yaya Bello case, because the Yaya Bello went to court, and the Court of Appeal even ruled on him that went to court and said, go and submit yourself to the court.
All right.
And each time EFCC attempts to
Larry, we're going to have to leave it.
The law enforcement agencies that are protecting him. So we need to actually put it at their doorstep.
We're going to have to leave it here. We're going to have to leave it here. And I do thank you. I thank you as well for making time for us this morning. Larry Suraj, Anti-Corruption Crusader, Chairman, Human and Environmental Development Agenda. Thank you very much. And especially taking time out of your schedule over in Ghana, where you're busy monitoring the elections. Thank you both, gentlemen. Alester Wilcox and Larry Suraj. Okay, that's our program today. We're going to have to leave it here for now. Do join us again on Monday for a fresh edition. I am Iori Folari. Bye-bye for now. Do have